Rivera. I'm gonna be vlogging my trip to Italy this weekend. I leave Friday morning and I get back Sunday night. I'm leaving Friday morning from Orlando International, getting there Friday night at Leonardo da Vinci International, and then leaving Leonardo da Vinci International Sunday morning and coming back to Orlando Sunday night. So I'm going over to Rome to go see the Coliseum, which is probably the most famous landmark in Rome. And what is the Coliseum? It's an amphitheater. It's just basically an entertainment center for the heavily populated city of Rome at the time. And some estimates say it could hold 50,000 to 80,000 people. So definitely a big crowd there. The people were there for all sorts of shows. They were there for public dramas, naval displays, which those are pretty cool. I'll touch on that later. Public executions, those are not cool. And gladiator fights, animal hunts, you name it, they had it there. It was on display for everybody. Basically, to touch on the history and social injustice at the time, commoners and poor people were sat at the very top with the worst view. It was less decorated, it was no personal space, and rich people, the wealthy, the elite, they sat right on the sidelines where it was heavily catered toward them. So I'm on the plane, we're about to lift off in a couple minutes. I got a window seat. We're still on the tarmac, but I'll update you guys once I'm in Leonardo da Vinci International. So we're about to land. You can actually see the Coliseum from the plane. So I'll update you guys once I get to my hotel. So I made it to my hotel. It seems exactly like my room at home. Italians, right? They even gave me a dog. Like, wow, this is crazy. Seems a little lived in though, I'm not gonna lie. I'll update you guys tomorrow once I get on the road to the Coliseum. So this is the taxi ride on the way to the Coliseum. These people kind of drive crazy, I'm not gonna lie. But as we wait, I'll explain a little bit of the history. So the Coliseum was built between 72 and 80 AD under Emperor Vespasian. It was used from then for about 400 years until the last animal hunts in 523 AD. After that, it was reused as a fortress and housing, and later on a quarry, until the 18th century. So I finally made it to the Coliseum. You can really see the scale of the Coliseum here and how big it truly was. Like, to imagine 50,000 people filling these seats. The energy must have been crazy. So the Coliseum was built using travertine, limestone, and Roman concrete for structure. Then they used bricks and marble for floors and decorative elements. As you can tell, there is widespread use of arches and vaults for support and iron clamps to hold the stones together. As you can see, the Coliseum is a large oval arena with lots of seating and a large stage in the center. As I said before, it was less decorative and there was less personal space in the upper seating, whereas in the lower seating, they had lots of space. As I said before, they put on naval displays in the arena. They would flood the bottom using aqueducts and put on a full battle for people to enjoy, which must have been a sight to see. So in 64 AD, Emperor Nero began building his golden house, or Domus Aurea, in the heart of Rome, and it was known for its extravagance that reflected Nero's desire for luxury. Although it was beautiful, it required taking land from citizens, and it did not sit well with the people of Rome. So in 69 AD, Emperor Vespasian comes around and he's like, oh, I need to rebuild trust with all these people of Rome because his predecessors ruined it. So what does he do? As a very humble man and prioritizing people's needs, he decides to build a grand amphitheater for the public, picking Nero's golden house as the location. This was an extremely smart move of him because it stabilized Rome after Nero's suicide. So I'm back in my hotel, and the Coliseum was huge. It was a lot bigger than I envisioned. It was actually a lot more run down than I thought, but it was still really cool. After learning about its history, I appreciate it definitely a lot more. since it was kind of like a stab in the back to Emperor Nero from Vespasian. It also gained trust from the Romans, and it held strong for hundreds of years. I think it's extremely important to remember its history and keep that intact, as it'll just end up being another old building if we don't. So in conclusion, the Coliseum was a huge, important building, amphitheater for the people of ancient Rome. Another thing is that it's extremely expensive to visit. My plane ticket was about $600. My hotel was another $600. Food was about $250-ish, and taxi was about $50. So all in all, I spent over $1,000 on this trip. My final point is that I think the place is really cool. The history is super cool, and I feel like everybody should go and visit.